The resolutions are so weird. I can see nothing. So I think Stanley Parable wasn't made to be Alt-Tab friendly. Whoops. All right, let's check this out, see how it looks. Oh, it doesn't. Whoops. I think we can make you work. There it goes. All right, so I don't think I can actually get it at a resolution that's full screen. And let me update the chat information. Okay, so this is misleading because somebody said that there is somewhere listed in here is the Stanley Parable HD remix, and I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist. So, whatever. Isn't there an achievement for not playing it a long time? I think there is. I think there's an achievement for not playing it for like 10 years. And a friend of mine was talking about trying to get that achievement the real way. Oh, I can change the resolution there. Okay. That should look better for you folks. At least I hope so. So he was talking about trying to get it the real way by actually not playing the game for 10 years. Whereas it seems like most people who get that achievement get it by just like basically pretending and like moving their in-game clock. Spoiler alert. Sorry. 5 years is apparently the line. 2 years to go. Fair enough, Patrick. Oh, welcome back, Maestro. Good to see you. First impression when playing through on this. Honestly, I really enjoy this game. It's kind of a heartbreaker at the same time as it. It's just every playthrough is a little different, and I like that there is a. I like any game that has a really strong meta, and you'll see as we go through this, like, you know, a playthrough can take you 5 minutes, it can take you 15 minutes, it can take you half an hour, I think, but every time is a little different, and every time always gives you something to think about internally.
Of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow.
I do think it's interesting that you start off with Stanley being happy.
Call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Hold on a second. So make sure I've got this put together. This is this one over here. And this one is this one over here. So I think the first time that I realized that this game had like something for me was when I did this. So like you can just sit here and do nothing. And it's, oh wait, I'm pretty sure you can sit here and do nothing. Did I just make a fool of myself? Okay, maybe I did. Anyway, it's like every little interaction in this game adds up to something.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I don't want to go to the meeting. I also wish that I could see some of these papers in more detail, that kind of thing. Like, it's almost close enough for you to be able to see it, but I like how that one's just called words. I think you can close the door or something at the beginning. I think so. Yeah, all the little interactions in this game that you don't realize are going to be narrated and somehow involved end up being pretty significant. I'm trying to not go to the meeting.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
You know what, let's just do a vanilla playthrough. Let's do a vanilla playthrough the first time. Wasn't this featured in House of Cards? I don't know. I watched House of Cards up until I believe somewhere in the middle of the third season.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
And I did feel like, I know that they made a number of video game references, and pulled out like a Vita and I believe a PS4 in a couple of different places. But I think I remember people saying in season 3 that there were a number of video game references, but I never got deep enough
Feeling a wave
to find
of
out.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Do not alter without consulting whiteboard manager. I don't know if I don't know if you've been in jobs like this before, but having to, everyone is unique, you most of all, like being in this sort of like cubicle office, follow company policy lifestyle, like it's a little soul crushing.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
And I guess I don't know, it was kind of fascinating or refreshing or something to have a game that felt like it sort of understood what it felt like to just go through the motions. The executive bathroom.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Yeah, I think it was in reference to tiny actions and global repercussions. That would not surprise me.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. he stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I definitely got the impression that near the end of like season 2 and going into season 3, somebody who is a gamer was playing and finding ways to tie those lessons in. And I like that there was somebody out there who was like, hey, we're going to add some relevancy and add some games to the to sort of the overall discussion that folks who are watching House of Cards are going to have. I'll have to try and finish season 3 so I can catch that reference.
As though he felt more free to think for himself.
And also, I'm keeping note of the stuff that's happening in the chat so we can do it on the next playthroughs.
When for years it had never occurred to him. This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Now we're doing a vanilla playthrough. Alright, so... let's see, stopped watching that show after they got drunk in the campus library or whatever. You know, actually, I think the show still held up really well after that. And I did think that they did an interesting job of kind of rounding out that aspect of the character.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
I did feel like what they ended up playing out in... I feel like what they did end up playing out in terms of, I guess, what they did with his sexuality. I don't think they did a whole lot with it after that episode, other than just making it sort of a talking point by something that happens near the end of season 2. But I don't know, because I haven't gotten to the end of season 3 and don't know if that's going to show up or whatever. But I do think that at least season 2 is worth catching up on. Season 3 just got a lot more applicable in the last 3 hours, and that's why I'm not watching Game of Thrones, but I'm not watching House of Cards right now. It's a little too real. I would have never anticipated that so much of what happened there would have felt feasible, and I am sorely mistaken.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
And I can't remember what Stanley's employee number was. I could have tried to keep an eye on that screen. Shoot. I guess we'll go through here. We talk about MST3K on Netflix because that's my life right now. I also never played Stanley Parable. Always wanted to. So you'll see the cool thing about Stanley Parable is kind of what we're gonna go through. There's a lot of Stanley Parable to play. Like even watching this as many times as we'll probably go through it, there's still gonna be plenty for you to do, and I'd totally recommend it. But I didn't know that they were redoing MST3K, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Is it a redo, or is it old classic episodes that are on Netflix now? This room is actually kind of difficult for me to deal with. I used to work for a healthcare IT company, and
this mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
It was difficult for me to deal with. I distinctly remember leaving work sometimes, and it'd be, right around 5 o'clock, and there'd just be all of these cars driving out of these different parking lots and all converging onto the few access roads to campus that would head out into the city. And I distinctly remember having this feeling like I was like hundreds of feet up in the air, just looking down at this line of cars and feeling like just one of like a million ants leaving the colony, and it was kind of depressing. Like, and there are tons of folks who work there and have an amazing experience and feel really fulfilled and all that, but I wasn't one of them, and it was really hard.
No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
The voice acting in this game is fantastic also. Yes, they did a Kickstarter and got tons of money. That's pretty cool.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Maybe that's what this does. There's a 1. It didn't do anything. I guess maybe just walking into the next room will do it. Okay, so I guess we can set off the...
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Wait, it...
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away.
Oh no.
And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation.
Sorry, this one's taken me a
The
second.
immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
I have never found that ending before. That's a playthrough. Good question, Joe. That is the length of an average playthrough. So the captivating thing about the Stanley Parable is that like there are so many little interactions that change the nature of how the game plays out. And I'm sitting here a little mind blown because I've played it tons of different times, and I'm pretty sure I've never gotten that ending, which is frustrating because you have this impulse to like exact your own control on a situation, right? So like, you know, he says that you go outside, and instead
Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go anywhere except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell.
Yeah.
But the one thing he
Because
knew for
indecision.
sure beyond any doubt was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer.
I don't know
Now
if this
it's
just
even
continues
closer.
on forever.
Here it comes.
Yeah, there it went. Yeah,
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the
no,
pressure.
that's not what I wanted.
What if he had to
Oh,
make a
shoot.
decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his
Alright,
responsibility?
we're gonna end up going this way
He had never
again.
been trained for that.
Um,
No. This couldn't go
but
anywhere
yeah,
except badly.
that's,
The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait.
yeah, I
Nothing
have no
will
idea why that got
Nothing will
auto-modded.
break me. In
Patrick,
here
I
can
don't
be
know, I
happy
don't know.
Forever. I will be happy.
Last I looked, you were in
Stanley
Cerebro, and then you were
waited.
outside.
Hours
So
passed,
the thing about it,
then
like a
days.
playthrough of this game can
Had
take
years
15
gone by?
minutes,
He no
and
longer had the
every
ability to
little
tell. But the
decision
one thing he knew for
has the
sure beyond
potential to
any doubt
tweak
was that if he waited
what
long enough,
happens.
the answers would come.
What is frustrating to
someday,
me about
they
that
will
last one,
arrive.
is it was just
Soon,
like
very soon now, this will end.
by just
He will be
following the
spoken to.
narrator,
He will be told what to do.
you end up
Now it's
outside.
just
You
a
end up.
little bit
I got an
closer.
achievement called "Beat the Game."
Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
And it felt like the beat the game, right? That you find the mind control device, you turn it off, and now you can do whatever the hell you want to, and you're outside and the world is beautiful instead of being stuck in this cubicle office lifestyle. But it's like no matter how many times I tried to fight against the voice, even just in little ways
All
to
of
like
his
make my
coworkers
own
were
whatever,
gone. What could it
yes, I
mean?
find out
Stanley decided to
a
go to
lot
the
more
meeting
about
room.
the
Perhaps he had
universe,
simply missed a
but it
memo.
doesn't get me outside. I don't win. I don't get freedom.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
So we'll try going through this again. Let's see. One of the playthroughs one of the references I saw was to put 9999 on the keypad. So we're gonna see if we can get to a point where we can do that. And see if that changes things.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person
There are
here
1,000
either.
outcomes. I
Feeling a
didn't
wave
know
of
that there were that many.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
I feel like that's semi-symbolic of what the game sounds like. You fight against things as opposed to doing what's natural and you lose. Yeah, I mean, I to a certain extent I agree, but it's like the way that you end up finding out about all this is that like you're completely removed from the situation, right? Everybody's gone. You go up to the boss's
Coming to
office.
a
You're not trying to
staircase,
figure out how to
Stanley
take care of
walked
this
upstairs
yourself.
to his boss's
You go up
office.
to your boss's office to find out what's going on. And the only reason that you can even figure out that the boss's,
Stepping
that
into
something
his
has been
manager's
going
office,
on,
Stanley was
is by
once
having
again
this like
stunned to
random
discover
information
not an
dropped in your
indication of
head
any human
for the
life.
keypad.
What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation.
Oh, so
But his
this is...
attention was caught by a
here
keypad
we go.
behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be?
So
In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below.
we're going to see what happens with
And so the
999.
boss had assigned it an extra
Oh,
secret.
okay,
number,
exaggerating. They're probably like 15. That's fair.
2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
So it subverts the narrative that the authoritarian voice is bad. I guess, yeah, in a sense it does.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Stanley simply began entering 2845.
I guess the narrator has given up.
But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Whoop-de-doo.
Let's see, would you instinctively follow along with the narrator? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what would happen most of the time if you were to randomly test with the game muted. Would you instinctively follow along with the narrator? Yeah, whatever happened wasn't so good for the other employees, but that's a good point. Yeah, if you didn't have a narrator, I mean, it kind of breaks. It's the point of the game, though, right? Is that there is this narrator who can possibly guide your experience, and it's like, do I let the narrator guide me? Do I trust the narrator to guide me to something positive, or do I strike out on my own path? And at that ending, he said that it wasn't knowledge he was questing for or whatever. It was just freedom or whatever. So you don't end up knowing anything about the situation that you walked away from. The question is, does it really matter if you know anything about the situation that you walked away from if you are walking into a situation where now you are free? And that's an interesting question. Like, we don't know what happened to the other employees. We don't know what happened to the boss. We don't, and I don't know. I mean, there's some obvious, I think it's pretty obvious to know that there's some religious allegory in there too. By following the will of, insert deity, does that lead you to happiness? And regardless of the things that happen around those situations, if things are terrible or if people are hurt or whatever, if you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing based on the scripture or the leader or whatever, if that takes you to a place of peace or freedom, does the rest of it matter? And I think a lot of people have to kind of ask themselves that question. I mean, did all of the other employees maybe just get out before you did and go through exactly the same thing, and now they're out wandering free in the whatever? I don't know. You're the 1 in 500 that benefits from the system. Yeah, I mean, like, here we go. We've got this. Escape is written right there. And if you trust the narrator, like, we know how that ending goes, that you just follow him and you turn the mind control facility off and the door opens and it's like, yeah, you don't know anything, but you're free. Let's escape. We're going to see what happens this way.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Oh. I guess let's see what happens anyway.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Again, hard not to see religious allegory here.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Oh, God. No. Oh. What?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise,
Oh, God.
he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man.
Oh, my gosh.
So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life.
There's...
Farewell, Stanley.
Are we is it seriously gonna... Oh, my...
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Oh. What? Okay.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
I must not remember. I swear I would have played...
Every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Whoa. Nature, paint... Do you think that... What if every time you go outside, it's just one of these random nature paintings? That's the office layout. This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. Oh, no. I can't... Guys, I can't handle what's happening to my brain right now. It's like, I swear I've played this before. How do I not remember this? The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the two doors in a good time. The solitaire office computer. Friggin' Davey. Kevin Brighting is the narrator. This is like button sounds. A selection of each sound is a mix of a keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. I can't help but feel like maybe there is something to this. You know, what does it mean if you follow, you're following the situation, you don't know anything, and you're supposedly happy? I mean, that essentially is what Stanley was doing in the cubicle. In the cubicle, he just did what he was told and pushed the buttons that he was told to push, and they say he was happy. So why is the playthrough that we went through any different? Narration outtakes? Come on, play one of them.
Now then, this elevator for sure will get him right back on track to where he was supposed to be in the story.
I mean, I guess I didn't think about it. But yeah, what we did in our vanilla playthrough was exactly what we were told. Just like the game started, it said that Stanley pushed exactly the buttons that he was told to press, and he was happy until something happened. And what we did was push every button that we were told to press, even ones that we didn't know that we knew we were supposed to press. Freedom ending. This is the freedom ending as it existed in beta. Like, folks, I gotta admit, that is, I'm still kind of not sure how I feel. I feel a little mind fucked, because now we have all of this knowledge that the entire situation is a scam. Like, we could go through all of this and learn each of the individual pieces that composes our ending. And what does it matter? Like, we're not free. Can we not even... So what does it mean if we're just randomly exploring, but we haven't done anything? And now we have all this knowledge of the system that we were put into, but I mean, what does it do? From left to right, the evolution of Stanley's office. I mean, look at the way that they even changed the lighting here to make it like that much more depressing. And with the colored like file folder thing, so it feels like there's just an order. On the side, I do like the resources presented in a museum format. I think having it in a museum format like this to explore is fantastic. And there's the exit. And I also like being able to get some of this, like, I don't know, it's like going through the director's cut. I do want to take on, I'm gonna write this down too, so I have a big old list. I do want to take on Firewatch. We played Firewatch during the first hour of the Intelligame Extra Life live stream, and and I thought there was a lot of really good discussion and commentary that came from that, and I would love to see, there apparently is a new director's cut where you can go through and get information, you know, the people who created the game record tracks about like the decision process and all that, and I'd love to go through that.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
I don't know if these two is speaking to like on and off as concepts. Are they, or is it like me and Stanley?
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time choose.
it's actually not respawning us. So this ending has some particular significance for me because I historically feel like I have very much been, and it's something that I'm consciously working against. I sometimes find it very hard to take action. I feel like a lot of the situations that I have gone through have been life taking actions for me. It is really scary to take an action and to make a choice knowing that you're accountable for that choice and the consequences. Like, people can be hurt or disappointed. And I think it is really interesting that this ending, she specifically says, like, you've got to make a choice. Don't let time make the choice for you. One of the things I've been trying to better understand is that not making a choice is a choice. Inaction is an action. And at this point, they're making you, right? Like, you have to hit escape and begin the game again. But it's different now. Somehow mentally it is different now because you're dead. Like, you have no choice. This is going to sit here forever until you make that decision. But time made the decision for you. I could have said, I'm not worried. I'm going to take the agency upon myself, and I'm going to say, I'm going to restart, and I don't know what the end would have been, but I'm gonna follow the advice, and I'm gonna see that this whole thing was a setup, and I'm gonna walk away. The only way to win the game is to not play, right? But we didn't. I think there's something to that. Well, it is about 9 o'clock. We're gonna do one more playthrough because there was a mention in the chat about the broom closet, and I do want to go to the broom closet because I do remember that from the last time I played it, and I think that is super worth it. So let's spend some time in the broom closet, and then we'll end for the night.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
That's kind of interesting. I think you can... I swear there's a way to go in there. You can't actually, like, play solitaire, but... is this the only unique ending like this? I don't know. I think... I actually don't know. I can't help but imagine, based on the story or what that message was supposed to convey, I can't help but feel like that would be the only one that does that self-termination, but maybe there are other ones. Hit people guy, welcome to the stream. Also hate Mondays, random coffee cup. I wish I had picked it up, but yeah, all the endings are unique in their own way. I don't know if there actually is a broom closet ending.
Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Welcome to the stream, Hit People Guy.
To his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Hope you're having a good night. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well. This is right near the end of the stream. We're gonna spend some time in le broom closet. I think that's French for the broom closet. I also wish I could alter this whiteboard, but unfortunately I can't. Rip Franz. I think that's the only where you have to manually reset. I think so too. I kind of hope so. number of slides on this slide. There are slides, there are charts, and there are charts and slides. Rate at which charts on the same slide depict the same information. Okay, whatever. To the broom closet. So you're supposed to be heading up that way to go to the boss's room.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
No reason at all. And now we just hang out. Yep, now we chill.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
I kind of want to say sweet FA.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around
lighting
doing
glitch
nothing?
on the handle.
Why? Please offer me some explanation.
swinging
here.
or
I'm
something?
genuinely confused.
No, it doesn't look like it.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
I mean, it's labeled, though, to be fair. It's a labeled
Maybe
door
to
on your
you,
way.
This is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friend, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning.
For anybody who's new to the stream, I'm Josh
Stanley was fat
Boykin,
and ugly
founder of
and really, really
Intelligame.
stupid. He probably
You
only got the
can,
job because of a family
we stream every
connection. That's how
Thursday.
stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
But yeah,
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. He or she has fallen prey to
Which
any
is great
number
if you're
of your
playing on
countless
speakers.
human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them.
freaking grand.
All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Yeah, and at a certain point, it just waits for you to step into the hallway. But yeah, if you're new to the stream, we stream every Thursday. We do games that hopefully give us an opportunity for some intellectual discussion while we're also hanging out. If you are interested in checking out more Intelligame content, you can find it at intelligame.us. It's a game culture and criticism site where you find intersections between games and culture. You can also follow Intelligame at Let's Intelligame on Twitter or at Let's Intelligame on Facebook. And you can follow me at Wallstormer, where I also do personal streaming at twitch.tv/Wallstormer, where I'm more likely to stream stuff that's just fun and random and whatever. Might do some Overwatch later, I'm not sure. I think at this point, it really is just going to wait for us to leave the broom closet. So.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you. You too? Unbelievable. I'm at the mercy of an entire species of invalids. Perhaps there's a monkey nearby.
Good call,
who can handle
Patrick.
controls too. A fish? Fungus? Look, You can hammer out the details.
Rick
I'm not
takes
particularly
Roy off
picky.
the grid,
I'll
part
just be
2.
waiting for when you're ready to pick up the story again.
I haven't watched the new season premiere of Rick and Morty. I need to check that out. Yeah, I think. Yeah, at this point, it won't take the bait. You just have to move on.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
This time, let's try going downstairs.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer.
This one creeps me out.
His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange.
I can't imagine being on the writing team for this.
Describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control.
So maybe we do have to reset this one.
So he closed his eyes gently,
and
he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of
I
the
could use some
mattress on his back,
Szechuan sauce.
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this.
Life is a computer simulation
I wish it
motif.
to be over.
I see a little bit of that in here.
Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want.
I don't think that's how
I
this
want my
works.
apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Yeah, we're still here.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work.
Oh.
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man.
Ooh.
He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this,
let's see.
and in a
I think I
certain
picked
way,
this up because
seeing
of some
this man
Congregate
made her
text
feel
game that
better.
was similar in terms of
Then
plot.
she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life.
This is
She
depressing.
had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
That's probably the right decision. Yeah. What happened? I walk away and you do dead or napping. No, super dead. Super dead. Yeah, we didn't find any happy end. Well, I think we found a happy ending. We found a potentially happy ending that ended up sort of dark. And then we found a kind of dark ending. Where dude was just crazy and fell dead on the sidewalk. All right, so I'm gonna take Patrick's recommendation and hold on a second. Oh, you know what? Actually, I need to jump out of here because we are doing. I've got a meeting that I need to head over to, and I didn't realize that we had put it on time. So I should probably get out of here. But yeah, I mean, escaping was happy. So we will check the. We'll save it for next time. We'll save the broom closet for next time. But everybody, thanks for stopping by. It was really awesome hanging out. Definitely, if you haven't hit it already, hit that follow button and swing back with us next Thursday. We also are going to be streaming on Sunday. We're going to be streaming Telltale Batman. So, and we'll also be have a guest on there.
Stanley stood for a long time in one spot.
Have a guest in there, Mikkel Snyder from Freeze Ray Poetry. So thanks everybody for swinging by. Hoping to see you on Sunday. And yeah, keep Intelligaming.
Let's observe